Sorry. We close the door for you.
Oh wow, beautiful. Keep us.
Oh yeah, yes, it is.
Okay,
Let's do it, Steve.
Alex, we're good? Can you see?
I would read 10.
Alex, say something.
Good.
We're good?
Yeah, you're
Is that
good.
who's that, Melina?
No, it's Ariella. But it looks good.
I love the
Hello.
background.
I know you.
Yeah, it looks good.
It's good, very good. Thank you. Alex, can we push this back?
It needs to be closer also.
Okay.
As far as close as possible.
All right. So Shavua Tov, we're going to start in a few moments. So those, for those of you who are joining in now, forgive me because I'm still a novice at the Zoom thing. So at Zoom, I dial in, I have a live audience. So it's an ADD convention for Steve Eisenberg. So multitasking. Steve's looking to the mic, we're not speaking louder. Okay. All right. Okay, so Shavua Tov, Steve Eisenberg. I should move to the right. Politically or just now? I'm only joking. David, calm down, calm down. Oh, God.
Fall off the ledge.
All right. All right, we're good. Okay, Shavua Tov. So first I want to say hello to my mom. Hi, Mom. Hope you feel better. My cousin Leslie and Mrs. Raskin. My mom's dear friend, Mrs. Marla Turk, and all our friends from Las Vegas, and the Weinbergs from Riverdale, Baltimore, Posners, Millers. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting people. Okay, so we're live in Surfside, Val Harbor for our weekly Torah class. Okay, so with that, we're beginning the fifth book of the Torah. It's very exciting. We're beginning the fifth book of the Torah. There are five. Okay, there are five. And the name of the book is called Devarim in Hebrew. In Latin, it's called Deuteronomy. Okay, and also we want to dedicate the class for all of our friends who are still missing and all the families who are sitting Shiva for our dear friends. Not going to discuss that again. It's beyond tragedy. And also for the Refuah Shlema of Sephora Chaya Bazdina, and also for my partner, Dr. Gavin Samuels, whose mom is struggling from COVID in Johannesburg. So we hope all of our learning, Refuah Shlema to all those and every Jew that needs it, and every person in the world. Okay, so we're beginning the fifth book. We're beginning the fifth book of the Torah. So the last book of the Torah was written the last 36 days of Moshe Rabbeinu's life. It was written the last 36 days of Moshe Rabbeinu's life. And basically it's a review of the other four books of Torah. All right, in Latin, it's called Deuteronomy. Duo in Latin means two. And numeros means law, second law. The other name for Devarim is called Mishnah Torah because it's review. And the book of Devarim, basically Deuteronomy has three basic themes. One theme is admonishment, that Moshe Rabbeinu is using these moments before he passes away to teach the Jewish people about their mistakes, their foibles throughout the 40 years. So again, this book was written in the last 36 days of his life. And basically it was written by Moshe, but Hashem said, I like it, speaking anthropomorphically speaking, and he incorporated this into the Torah. So there are three basic themes. One is admonishment, And chastisement is that Moshe is telling the Jewish people what they did wrong over the past 40 years. The second theme are mitzvos, connections that the Jews need to know as they go into the land of Israel. Up until this point, the Jews are a centralized nation. 3.5 million people are traveling together. And now they're going to be decentralized because they're going to be scattered, the 12 tribes and all over the land of Israel. The third theme of the book are the brachas, the blessings, and the curses, what will happen to the Jewish people if they don't keep the Torah. Okay, and there's amazing prophecy, nevuah. What does that mean? Is the destruction of the first temple, the second temple, the Holocaust, the pogroms, the Inquisition. Even that was transpired in our neighborhood a few weeks ago. It was all in the Torah, the terrible calamities that will take place. So when we say the blessings and the curses, we didn't have to have curses. We didn't have to have the pogroms. We didn't have to have the Holocaust. But because the Jewish people, our mission in this world is so vital, unfortunately, these are the things that are given to us. Why, how, in 120 years, we leave this planet, we'll ask Hashem why. They're all given to us to put us back on track. Okay, so again, 3 themes of the book. One is Moshe is using this time to admonish the Jewish people for the mistakes they made. And by the way, if you read the Torah, you'll think the Jewish people are messing up all the time. And the truth is, that's not true. It's basically 10 times or so where they really made mistakes in the Torah. 3.5 million people making 10 mistakes over 40 years, but the Torah doesn't tell us how great we are, but how great we become. All right? They made mistakes. We don't wear halos, right? All the matriarchs or the patriarchs made mistakes. Again, their mistakes aren't our mistakes. They were very great people. The Torah tells us to be a human being, to be a Jew means you make a mistake. But we're going to discuss that in a moment. Okay, so those are basically the 3 themes. So we discussed before, what is the Torah? The Torah is a blueprint of the Jewish people. It's an instruction guide for living. The Torah is an instruction guide for living. And we discussed this many, many times. If you purchase anything in the world, it comes with an instruction guide, right? You buy a Lego stick, it comes with an instruction guide. Very often, those instruction guides are more complicated than just doing it yourself, correct? But we believe that the creator of the universe had a very specific purpose for this world, and that purpose, right, is taught us in the Torah. And we discussed this before. What are the instructions that go with the instructions? Those are called mitzvot. Doesn't mean commandments, it means instructions. You have the instruction guide, which is the Torah. So the first book of the Torah, Bereshit, has 3 mitzvot, 3 connections. The second book of the Torah, Shemos, has 111 mitzvot. The third book of the Torah, Vayikra, has 247 mitzvot, 247 connections. The third book, okay, Bamidbar, has 52 mitzvot, and Devarim has 200. And many of the mitzvot that are discussed in this book is a review of the other 4 books and the 70 new mitzvot. I hope I'm being clear. Okay, so that's basically it. All right, so let's commence to read Parshat Devarim. So we begin. Ela hadavarim asher diber Moshe el kol Yisrael be'ever hayarden b'midbar b'araba mol sof ben Paran u'ben Tofel v'lavan hatzeros v'di zahav. And these are the words that Moses spoke to all Israel. We know whenever we learn Torah, we analyze every word. We believe the creator of the universe didn't just use words, so we analyze every word. So whenever we have a question is, why does the Torah tell us these are the words of Moses that he spoke to all of the children of Israel? Right? Why all of them? On the other side of the Jordan, so we know that Moses was not able to go into the land of Israel. He was buried on the other side of Israel. Concerning the wilderness, concerning the Arava, opposite the Sea of Reeds, between Paran and Tofel and Lavan and Haserot and Dizahab. 11 days from Charav by the way of Mount Seir to Kadesh Barnea. It was the 40th day in the 11th month and the first of the month. So what is going on here? We learned so much in these sentences. So number one, we have a Kabbalistic idea known as gematria. Gematria, some of you are probably aware of it, which means that every letter in the Hebrew alphabet has a numerical equivalent. Numerical equivalent. In other words, every Hebrew letter has a double meaning. So for instance, the letter Aleph is 1, Bet is 2, Gimel is 3. So what we do, if you look at a given word in the Torah, we add up those letters, the gematria, numerology, and we see there's another word with exactly the same configuration. And very often, not very often, there's a connection between the word, those two words spiritually. So the first question we have is the word Elah. Elah, why do we have that word? So our rabbis teach us, brought down, that Elah, the gematria, the numerology, is 36. It adds up to 36. And we have from this an idea known as that the world, just like Moses is now repeating the Torah, is we have a notion that the world cannot sustain itself without 36 lamed vavniks. 36 lamed in Hebrew is 30 and vav is 6. Okay, please, Jonas. Hi. Sorry. Okay, so Elah, the gematria is 36, all right? And you might have heard the expression that the world is sustained by the 36 lamed vavniks. There has to always be 36 righteous people. We don't know who they are. Some people say they live in Great Neck, and some people say they live in Sunny Isles, but we don't really know. No one really knows. But very often people say, oh, he's a lamed vavnik. He's one of the 36. We're not supposed to know who they are. He's a lamed vavnik. Okay, so we learn from this Elah that the world is sustained by 36 secret righteous people, that the world is sustained by them. Okay. So now the question is, why is Moshe Rabbeinu mentioning these particular few places? Okay, it's a very, very deep idea. Why is Moshe repeating these particular places where the Jewish people went to? Each of these places, if you study the Torah, the Jews, pardon my French, screwed up. They made big mistakes. Okay, I'm not going to go through every single one of them, and we learned so much from this. Okay, it says that they were in a place called Di Zahav. Di Zahav, that was a place. There was no place in the Torah called Di Zahav. What does Zahav mean in Hebrew?
Gold.
Gold. So what is that an allusion to?
Golden calf.
Exactly, the golden calf. Was Di Zahav, right, I died, but Di Zahav, Moshe is giving them a very soft way of admonishment, chastising them. Okay, that we stop in that place you screwed up. And from this we learn that when you criticize someone, you don't have to tongue lash them. You don't have to go, because most people, especially in this generation, can't handle criticism. I know myself. It's, if the right person gives me criticism, I love it. But if the wrong person gives me criticism, it's the wrong day, you could shut me down.
Look at this, right? Look at this. Look at yourself from time to time.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you. Guys, sorry, I'm still learning how to do this. Okay. So most people do not like criticism. And if you do criticize someone, it has to be done without anger. It has to be done in a certain way, in terms of illusion. So what is Moses teaching us? He's telling them, you are bad boys, bad girls, okay? But he's alluding to it. I'll give an example. So I hope my friend is not watching. I don't think he is. So many years ago, a group of us went to the Caribbean for vacation. And I had a very interesting roommate, okay? And what happened was that we were given 4 towels in the room. So 2 guys, 4 towels, do the math, 2 for me and 2 for, oh God, and 2 for him. So I got back to the room, 1 towel's on the floor, 1 towel's on him, 1 he used to clean off the water from the medicine cabinet, whatever, and 1 fell into the bathtub. The only problem is, it took another hour to get other towels. So I was saying to him, David, okay. I said, David, what's going on? Steve, no big deal. We can order them. I know, but we're going out in an hour. You took care of yourself. And this went on everyday things like this. So one day I went to town, to Bridgetown, to buy soda. So I buy soda, I stack the refrigerator, and he, invites other rooms to have a little party in the room. It was very nice. I bought the soda. I left to go. And this went on every day. So let's say if I ever travel with him again, which is never going to happen, okay? But he's a beautiful guy. So I don't have to say to him, by the way, let's not review what happened in Guadalupe. But yeah, I gave it away. Yeah, okay. Thank you so much. Okay. But I don't have to say, let's not revisit what you did. All I have to say is let's not have another Barbados situation. You get the same message across. So we learned from this a tremendous lesson of criticism of someone. You could allude to it. I don't want the same thing that happened last Godspeed. You don't have to tongue lash someone, because when you keep going on it, what you're really showing is it's your own anger and your own stuff. We learned from Moshe Rabbeinu that he's using this opportunity before he passes away, okay, to admonish them in a soft way. But again, the Torah is not here to tell us how great we are, but how great we become. But the Torah is showing us we make mistakes. So I've said this before in class. I had a friend, let's call him Chris, very devout Catholic. And when the Pope that came to New York City to visit, he said, Steve, it's so good to know there's one person in the world that's infallible. He doesn't make mistakes. Like, okay, we don't believe in infallibility. We make mistakes. The greatest rabbi goes to shul like this. Well, what do we learn from this? Is that even, this is very deep, I hope I give this over correctly, even when we make mistakes in our lives, whether it be in finance, relationships, getting married, et cetera, we made the best decisions or not in our lives, but it couldn't have happened unless Hashem wanted it to happen. Does everyone follow? We have bechira, we have free will, but we can make mistakes, but even the mistakes that we made couldn't have happened unless Hashem wanted the mistakes to make. And we discuss this, I think, almost every class, is the two words for why in Hebrew said Rebbe Sinyan Grace, lama and madua. And every Jew has to know their language, right? Again, I led many trips in Israel. Most Israelis don't even know this. The word lama does not mean why, and madua does not mean why. Lama is lema, to what purpose? Madea is what knowledge, madea. What did I learn from this? So Moshe is showing them these mistakes in a very, very soft way, saying, what did you learn from the Zahav? What did the golden calf, what did you learn from that? They freaked out. They lost emunah. They lost their faith because Moshe came down a little bit later. So whenever we have a mistake, instead of saying why, firstly, no one's going to answer you. But the question always is, what did I learn? What would I do differently as a result of that? So unfortunately, I have many friends who are divorced, and they'll say, what a big mistake it was that I married this one and married this one and that one. The truth is that could be, maybe they didn't do their homework on the guy or the girl. Maybe they were attracted to the wrong things. Or maybe they didn't do the work of their marriage. But guess what? If they have children, according to the Gemara, they didn't make a mistake because that neshama, that soul, would never have been born. Correct? So when people say they got married, they made a mistake. Okay, they could go through hell. But the fact is, it wasn't a mistake because God wanted that child, that neshama, to come to the earth. And again, we make mistakes. We marry the wrong people. We don't do the work. But that's not the point. The point is, again, Moshe is very clear before he's passing away, telling them the mistakes. Again, not to tongue lash them, but for them to realize you're going to make a mistake. What did you learn from these Ahav? What did you learn from these different places? And by the way, I personally believe that when a person goes through something in life, the minute you stop and say, Shem, I don't know why, but what would I do differently now? Then the whole area of depression stops, correct? It's an amazing, amazing concept that we learn from this. Don't ask. And by the way, another amazing Torah concept is a descent for an ascent. Okay, I learned years ago from Rabbi Simon Jacobson, which the Lubavitcher Rebbe spoke about this all the time. Is that whenever in life you think that things are going really, really poorly, and it's challenging and it hurts like hell, when the syringe of life is in your arm, it hurts. But Hashem would not be doing that. And again, I want to be very clear. If someone does something which is prerogative, something negative to me, that person will be judged by Hashem. But it couldn't happen unless I was supposed to go through that situation. A couple of years ago, before I moved to Miami, there was a guy on the West Side, and he scammed, I don't know, $10, $15 million from many of us in the Upper West Side. The guy went to prison. And the truth is, he went to jail. But it couldn't have happened to us unless Hashem wanted it to happen in Rosh Hashanah. I wouldn't follow. There's two systems. When someone does something to you that's painful, they will be judged. On the other hand, it couldn't happen unless Hashem. So I don't have a dog, but very often if you taunt a dog with a stick, what happens? The dog is biting the stick. The person's taunting him. The dog is really smart. I don't want any animal rights people protesting outside my door next week. But if the dog is really smart, the dog would bite the hand of the guy that's taunting him with the stick, correct? very often we get obsessed with the situation, or the person that's doing it to us, rather than Hashem. Why did this happen to me? Why did this person hurt me in business? Why does that go for the situation, not the person? And this is what the Torah is trying to teach us. Don't ask why, ask what did I learn? Or what did I learn? Because nothing happens without Hashem. But again, so one of my rabbis in my life, Rabbi David Aaron, said, I asked him one time, but how about if I make a bad decision? People say to me, this guy, don't trust him in business or in a dating world. This guy is a true love. This guy's a player. This girl, all right, we make mistakes. We make bad decisions. We got on a date. We make bad decisions. And then things don't work out. And then you blame Hashem. But the fact is, you couldn't have made that decision unless it was supposed to be that. All right? Not taking away your responsibility, but what did you learn from that? And this is a tremendous thing. By the way, you also see that this is true, articulated beautifully every day, every morning, every night. A traditional Jew in the Shema said in the third paragraph says, we are obligated to remember the leaving of Egypt. Why? Right? Every morning, every night. We have to remember the leaving of Egypt, because the Torah is teaching us that every Jew individually, collectively, are going to have your own personal Mitzrayim of your lives. Times you think things are going really, really badly. You would ask the Jews Mitzrayim, how's life going? Horrible, terrible. Meanwhile, it was, but that should lead them to go to Eretz Yisrael. We have to remember we have Egypt. If you ask a sunflower, as is in the earth, Mr. Sunflower seed, how are you? It's horrible. I'm rotting. It's cold. It's so depressing down here. But Mr. Sunflower, you don't even know that in 2 months, a month down the road, you're going to be 7 feet tall. If you've ever seen sunflower plants going down to Israel. But if you ask the seed rotting in the ground, wow, it's cold, it's damp, it's terrible. Meanwhile, that decay is really for an ascent. And so too, all of the challenges we go through in our lives, it doesn't mean that it's easy. Doesn't mean when the syringe is in your arm, it's ouch, it hurts, right? You're allowed to say, God, it hurts. But meanwhile, everything we're going through in our lives is because of what Hashem wants it, but you have to stop and contemplate, what's going on over here. Okay, so this is just the beginning of Devarim, and now we have another concept which we see over and over and over again. Again, Moses is now leaving the Jewish people. He's giving them unbelievable information that's going to carry us until Mashiach will come, please God, very soon. And he says in Pasuk Tet, he says, I said to you at that time, I cannot carry you alone. And this parsha is always read, okay, before Tisha B'Av, and actually the Nusach, even the tune of this particular sentence is read with the same truck, the same vocals truck that we sing to Echa. So it says, I cannot carry you alone. Hashem, your God, has multiplied you, and behold, you're like the stars in heaven in abundance. So Moses was saying how basically you're a very, very tough people. And the Jewish people were tough. We're very stiff and they were tough. But the same midah, the same characteristic that allowed us to be so tough, right, has allowed us to survive for 2,000 years, right? Killed us, murdered us, take our homes, take our money, but we still stay with where Hashem, the Torah. And now you see this metaphor that's used very often in the Torah. It says that you are like the stars of heaven. Why? Avram Avinu was told the same thing. Why are we compared to stars in the heaven? Right? Why not pine trees? Why not seashells? Because the problem with stars, the stars are very far from each other. Okay, Jewish people very often were very far from each other. We put ourselves in boxes, etc., etc. But one star can illuminate so much darkness. One Jew, one Einstein can change the world. One Jewish boy, Zuckerberg, can change the world. One man, Saban, changed the world. One man, Lubavitch Rebbe, changed the Jewish world. Right? You think about it. I've given many classes. You show me something in the world that changed the world, and there's a Jew or Jew behind it. But one quarter of 1% of the world's population. 1/4 of 1% of the world's population. Okay? And look at our accomplishments. Every movie company in LA, those of you from New York have heard me say this many times. The syringe, every supermarket chain, every department chain, clothing, Kenneth Cole, Donna Karen, okay, American Eagle. Where does that come from? The city of Miami was basically built by the Jewish people, okay? Hong Kong, et cetera, et cetera. So one star, 70 billion miles away, can illuminate so much darkness, but the same star, okay, we're very far from each other, very unfortunately. And he's telling us. And then Moshe says to the people, he's fetching, how can I alone carry your contentiousness, your burdens, and your quarrels? Okay, and this again, this portion is always read Tisha B'Av, and we're going to discuss the connection between this and the 9 days in Tisha B'Av, which will be, of course, God willing, not a Motzi Shabbat. And then he says, goes on follow that do not fear and do not lose resolve. Moshe is telling the Jewish people that a Jew should never, ever give up hope. Never give up, over and over and over again. And then says, do not be broken and do not fear them. Do not be broken, do not fear them. There's two systems going on, okay? There's reality and there's Jewish reality. There's reality and Jewish reality. What is Jewish reality is that things don't make sense when it comes to the Jewish people, right? If you would have asked Mrs. Schwartz in Buchenwald, in Auschwitz, do you believe in 1944 you're gonna have a country of your own with your own navy and your own army? Who would have believed it? 6 million Jews, almost 2 million children, 3 years later, correct? There were 600,000 Jews. Rabbi Weinberg writes in one of his book, 600,000 Jews in the land of Israel, 300,000 children, women and children, 300,000 men. And most of the men, let's face it, were not normal. Rabbi Weinberg says they came from the Holocaust. 600,000 people, right? Fight back 150 million people. Didn't make any sense, right? The State Department, 1948, 1947 said, even if you get partitioned, you're never going to survive. We all know 1967, most of them were around 1967, all right? Israel was digging up parks in Tel Aviv. They planned to have 10,000 dead in the land of Israel. And it's on record. Lubavitch Rebbe said, no, you don't have to dig up 10,000. And what happened was in 6 days, surprise, surprise, 7th day of Shabbat, look what Israel did against 150 million, to get Israel against Lebanon and Jordan and Syria. There's Teva, there's the world, and then there's the Jew. Teva. For those of you in South Florida, the rage is flickered when I said Teva, nature. Okay, God, got it. Thank you. All right. So what does that mean? Don't lose hope and have resolve. We have to do what we have to do as Jews. You want to get a job? You have to write a great resume, great CV. You want to get married? You have to go to K-Space. You have to go to Krona Crush, Krona Cuties. You have to go to events, whatever it is. You go to YJP programs. But the truth is, nothing happens. There's no success in life unless Hashem wants it to happen. So therefore, when you ever find yourself saying, I'm never going to get that job, I'm never going to get a flight to New York, that you're saying is, I don't believe Hashem can make things happen, right? Moshe Rabbeinu is saying to Jewish people, don't give up hope and don't fear them, right? There's Teva, there's reality, and there's Jewish reality. So again, I've shared this many times. We had a trip years ago, JIC. We went to West Point, right, on the Hudson River, upstate New York, and they had this whole lesson, this whole lecture on the greatest military accomplishments in the history of modern warfare, and he didn't mention Israel at all. So this woman, Mrs. Gottlieb, sitting next to me. She says, Vayamaka. She says, that general, he's an anti-Semite. I said, why is he an anti-Semite? Why didn't he mention? Oh no, she said to the general, why didn't you mention Israel? That was also a military, an amazing thing. 1948, 1967, 1973. So the general, not Jewish, said to this woman, she says, we don't talk about Israel because that's a miracle. That doesn't make any sense. So the woman says to me, he's an anti-Semite. I go, no, you don't understand. But he's saying it doesn't make any sense that 600,000 Jews can fight back 100. Yes, we're smart. We have great weaponry. But the fact is, it doesn't make sense. Without a bracha, it would never happen. We have to pray. We have to help our soldiers. We have to lobby. But the fact is, there's a bracha with our soldiers. There's a blessing in Israel. Okay. Then I said, do not be broken and do not fear them. Which again means whenever we find ourselves saying to ourselves, It's never going to happen. What we're saying is we don't believe Hashem can change your life. So reference Rabbi Weinberg, the founder of Asia Torah, discussing Asia a few months ago, would always ask me, did I purchase a lottery ticket? And I would say, yeah. He goes, why not? Because you think you're not going to win, because you don't believe in Hashem. Because if you believe in Hashem, then you have to buy a ticket. You have to be in it to win it. All right. The fact that you don't buy the ticket, you don't believe in Hashem, buy one. You have to buy one. If you don't buy a ticket, you're not even in the game. You have to be in the game. Do not be broken and do not fear them. Whenever we have pachad, we have fear, then we're saying that Hashem can't change my circumstance. Again, it doesn't mean that you don't write the best resume, doesn't mean that you sort of seek out the best lawyers, best attorneys, but don't fear that we have nothing to fear. Last couple of years, a lot of friends of mine in Israel, they're leaving Israel, and they're saying they're worried about Iran. I said, I guarantee you, Israel will be around way longer than Tehran. Something will happen. If you ask the Romans and the Greeks, the Mesopotamians and the Chaldeans, all these great empires, they're gone and we're around. If you would ask the communists, will you be around? The Jewish people, they're gone. The Nazis are gone. Arafat is, don't fear them and don't be worried. Okay, so that's an overview. So I just want to talk about this insidious time period we're in now. We know that Friday night and Shabbat and Shabbos began Rosh Chodesh of, okay? Rosh Chodesh of when Aharon passed away, Moses' brother. And we know that these 9 days, the very, very negative spiritual time for the Jew individually and collectively. We just try to tread water. And then Motzi Shabbat, Saturday night, and Sunday is Tisha B'Av. And what happened on Tisha B'Av? The first Tisha B'Av was the Meraglim. The spies came back and they had a terrible report on the land of Israel. And they set the energy for negativity. Okay, a lot to say about that. We know the first temple was destroyed on Tisha B'Av. The second temple was destroyed. The Inquisition started on Tisha B'Av. Okay, World War I started on Tisha B'Av, again, coincidence. And we now know the Holocaust, okay, World War II, for the most part, was built on World War I, what happened with the Allies, Nazis. So it's a day of tremendous negativity. What happened, though, on Tisha B'Av? Why were we driven out of the land of Israel 2,000 years ago? So Chazal tell us very clearly, we were kicked out of the land of Israel. The plan was originally the Jews were going to receive the Torah and then change the world from within our borders, be a light unto the nations within our borders. But because of Sinas Chinam, because Jews had stuck with each other, and they maligned each other and talked badly about each other, and they weren't happy for each other, Hashem says, something, kids? It's very, very, very dangerous. How do we end up in Surfside and Bal Harbor and Providence and Boston? Is because 2,000 years ago, we had a nation, we had a commonwealth, and we were kicked out. Good percent of the Jewish people were wiped out, they were murdered. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of Jews were brought back to Rome, okay, as slaves. It's interesting that I think one of the historians wrote that after the Jews were brought back to Rome, there was a depression in Rome. Why? Because most of your value, most of your assets were in your slaves. There were so many Jewish slaves on the stock market, so to speak, that the value of slaves went down 80%, and people were wiped out virtually overnight. And what happened within a generation or two, the Jews were freed as slaves because it wasn't good for business. In any case, that's how we ended up in Poland, in Romania, in Bulgaria, et cetera, et cetera. But why was the temple destroyed? Not because they weren't keeping Shabbat, they were keeping Shabbat. Not because they weren't keeping kashrut, they were keeping kashrut. And women were covering their hair. And the Jews were doing everything they could. They were checking the buns of the lettuce. And we had to do all those things, all the mitzvahs, because Jews didn't get along. So 2,000 years later, we're going to have this horrible, horrible day called Tisha B'Av, when all these tragedies, and we know, by the way, this horrible thing that took place in Surfside happened because, forget about the architectural plans and whether it was a sinkhole or not, it happened because the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. And Meron happened because the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. All of these maladies, all of these tragedies, that happened to our people is because the light went out 2,000 years ago, the Beis Hamikdash. All of the cancers, this is not the world that Hashem created. This is what Hashem wanted. All of these tragedies are because we live in Galut. Yeah. So I have a very, very big metaphysical problem. My entire life. If we know the temple was destroyed 2,000 years ago because of Sinas Chinam, the Jews didn't get along, and it's still 2,000 years later, and we're still in Galut, all right, we're still in exile, then why don't all the rabbis just focus on that? Yes, we have to learn Torah, we have to keep Shabbat. Why don't we just study that? So imagine you have a leak in your home, God forbid, right? And you complain to your husband, and you complain to your wife, or you complain to the super, there's a leak because we never fixed it. The fact that we're still in Gullus is because we haven't fixed that problem, correct? So I just want to offer some ideas. So again, this is my own subjectivity. I've done a lot of thinking. Why did this tragedy take place, not only in Miami, but in our neighborhood? Why does this happen here? We have to be introspective, and those of us who live here, if we're not introspective, I think we're missing a tremendous opportunity. And I gave this over. I was asked for the guest speaker this past Shabbat in the Young Israel. This is my opinion. I believe, based on what Lubavitcher Rebbe said to Rabbi Lipsker, who was who built this whole amazing community, Lubavitcher Rebbe told Rabbi Lipsker 30, 40 years ago when he first came, Miami Beach is like Yerushalayim. Right? Wow. What does that mean? That every Jew, Miami, Jews from all over the world come to Miami, right? Even more than New York, right? He said, if you're successful in Miami, the Rebbe told Rabbi Lipsker, if you're successful in Miami Beach, you can export Yiddishkeit, Torah, in all over the world. And by the way, that's exactly what happened. From this area, Rabbi Lipsker was able to export Torah to Barranquilla and Bogota and Venezuela and the Caribbean, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm hoping that this tragedy that took place in this neighborhood, because the whole entire Jewish world are really broken. But why are they so broken? Because Miami, every Jew has a connection to Miami. Every Jew's been here, visited here, their family here. It's an amazing thing. Almost every victim, should be a miracle, who's under the rubble are connected to people all over the Jewish world. So I think maybe this area is a microcosm of the Jewish world. Maybe if we could do tikkun, we could do rectification, we could bring more Ahavas Yisrael, more love of the Jew for another Jew in this neighborhood. And please God, this is the final korban. This is the last tragedy of the Jewish people to bring Mashiach. And really, right? We have to look at it like that way. Okay, so just a few ideas going to the 9 days, concretizing the extract. Okay, Ahavas Yisrael, love of the Jew, of another Jew. It doesn't mean I have to love a Jew in the way he practices Judaism. I have to love the Jew. And this is a big, big problem, in my opinion, in Israel, that people can't divorce themselves in the way a Jew practices Judaism and the Jew. All right, so a few ideas. Number one, for those of us who go to synagogue, don't go to synagogue, is saying Shabbat Shalom to another Jew, right? Especially in Eretz Yisrael. Just saying Shabbat, you walk into shul, you see a Jew, the world hates us, just say Shabbat Shalom to another Jew. Just say hello. And by the way, I heard this from Rabbi Roberts in Lakewood, New Jersey. He says, when you say Shabbat Shalom to another Jew, you're creating a mitzvah. You're causing the Jew to do a mitzvah. Why? Because there's two aspects of Shabbat, Zachar Shabbat, things that we do that remind us of Shabbat, and things that we don't do that takes us out of Shabbat. When you cause another Jew to say Shabbat Shalom, they're acknowledging it's Shabbos. It's amazing. That's like saying Kiddush. So when Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel, when you say Shabbat Shalom to someone walking on the street with 55 earrings in his nostrils and 85 tats all over his face. First of all, he's as Jewish as I am, but him saying Shabbat Shalom and he will respond, you're causing him to say Zachar Shabbos. He's remembering Shabbos. And the same thing, by the way, applies to Shavua Tov. When you say Shavua Tov, you're giving the Jew a bracha. Shavua Tov. Tov, right? Good. You're giving him a bracha. That's not so simple. Shabbat Shalom. So I'm going to share a story. So there's a very special guy. His name is Sali Shpiro from Riverdale and Eretz Yisrael. It's one of the biggest diamond deals in the world. It's the father-in-law of Mark Belsberg, of the father of Chantal Belsberg. So I was walking down the street I was going to their home for Shabbat lunch in Rehavia. They live in Rehavia. We're walking down the street, and Sally Shapiro, you have to learn from every person. So a guy's walking down the street, and he says to the guy, Shabbat Shalom, Shalomcha, Leinenim. The guy goes, Beseder, Baruch Hashem, Shabbat Shalom. How's your wife? In Hebrew, how's your children? How's Mishpacha? So Vera, his wife, says, as we walk away, do we know them? So Sally, with his Belgian accent, says, they are Jews. I want you to know how they are. Amazing, right? Is sometimes I walk down the street, I go places, people will look at their child, they'll look at their watch. I didn't even say Shabbat Shalom. Just say Shabbat Shalom. Just say hello, Shabbat Shalom to another Jew. This is all Ahavas Yisrael. It's so simple. Next. By the way, Eleanor Roosevelt wrote many, many beautiful things. And one of the things she wrote was great people do great things in small ways. It might not be, people think writing the $100,000 check to the shul, that's great. But maybe it's a simple thing, just saying hello, Shalom Aleichem. Next. The founder of the Hasidic movement was the Baal Shem Tov, the best. And he's taught, what is Ahavas Yisrael? What does it mean to love? And it's funny. If you ask a Jew, do you love Jews? I love Jews. I hate Goldberg, Goldstein, Cohn. You ask an anti-Semite, do you hate Jews? I hate Jews. But I like Eisenberg, I like Cohn, I like Rosenberg. Okay? You say, what's that?
Especially Eisenberg.
Especially Eisenberg, thank you. Okay? But it's funny, we throw this thing around as a love a Jew like myself. But what does that mean? What does it mean, Hava? It's what Baal Shem Tov taught. The word Hava in Hebrew, the root word of Hava is Hav, which means to give. How do you love another Jew like yourself? Hav is to give another Jew what they need, not what you want to give them. A smile, parnasah, an income. They're an insurance broker, try to get them business. They're an attorney. When you see a Jew, non-Jew is my best friend. Jews are mishpacha. When you meet a Jew, and this is I think what we need to do. We have to keep Shabbos and everything else, but just end the sinas chinam. You meet a Jew. What can I do to help the Jew? A smile, a job, a shidduch, a good word, something. Hahava, Ahavas Yisrael means giving another Jew what they need. And we know, so Rebbe and Esther Youngrice taught the word in Hebrew for life is chayim. And the root word of chayim are two yuds. And two yuds is Hashem's name. If you have Hashem colored glasses on, you have God colored glasses on, when you meet another person, another Jew, you stop and think, why is Hashem having this person meet me? All right? I wish I had $10 million to give away for every time people say to me, how do you know this one and that one and that one? And I say to them, you want the short version or you want the long version? Let me have the short version. Hashem. The long version? Well, I went to the wrong Starbucks in Tanya Isles. I happened to meet this guy. You go to Starbucks. There's a Jew in back of you. Say Shalom Aleichem. Say hello. And by the way, this is how I got my apartment and so I got my job. So you connect the dots. You don't say hello to another Jew, another person. You're not even letting Hashem bring the brachas into your lives just by saying hello. I got my first job at Bear Stearns. I went to Acapulco with my mom, right, Mom? And my mom is very gregarious. My mom loves people, all people. My mom says hello to everyone. Sometimes it's challenging, Mom, but I'm kidding with you, okay? My mom said hello to this couple, and I live in Englewood, New Jersey. And I said, I'm looking for a job. I don't know if I'm going to business school. I'm taking off 2 years. And they said, would you like to work at Bear Stearns? I'm like, yeah, that's how I ended up at Bear Stearns. Okay, hashgacha. I sent my resume to 50,000 places. Nobody wanted me. Hashgacha, by saying hello. Okay, again, chayim, two yuds. You're somewhere, say hello. You go to a wedding, go to bar mitzvah, at Starbucks, say hello to someone. You don't know why Hashem has you meeting that person. It's not random. Okay, next. We discussed this in the last few weeks, but again, it's the 9 days. We're going to end this goal. We're going to end all the tragedies. Saying good words. Look for good words, building people up, giving people a compliment. Doesn't mean you have to be psychophantic, but you see someone, in Penn Station, they have these big signs. You see something, say something, right? In reference to, a bomb or something, God forbid. If you see someone, they have a nice dress, they have a nice hat, a nice scarf, tell the person, I just saw your children are so adorable. I just walked by the Aquilina, your building, and the fountains are amazing. Bill, everyone likes a compliment. This is all Ahavas Yisrael, and not give people zetzes and make jokes at their expense. Give people good words, right? And that also applies for ourselves. Very often people will never say anything negative to other people, but they're negative themselves. Look for opportunities of always of good thing. I have a friend, I think she's watching Deborah Krieger. So Deborah Krieger will always call me up after an event or something and say it's amazing. Okay, next. What is a Ahavas Yisrael? Anticipate needs of other people. Don't wait till someone comes to you with help. Anticipate their needs. If you see something that's needed in someone's life, go out of your way. And again, we all go through things in life. We can't always be there for other people. I understand. But by the way, Mida Keneged Mida, measure for measure. The way that we treat another Jew is the way that Rebbeinu Shalom treats us. You want parnasa, you need income, you want a shidduch, you need shalom bayis, you want to get married, you want more joy. Is the way that we treat other people is the way the Almighty watches us, right? When Hashem sees that we go out of our way to help another person, and Hashem goes out of his way, so to speak, for us. So Rabbi Weinberg, Noah Weinberg, the founder of Beishat Torah, said to me before he passed away, do you know who's going to be very, very upset when Mashiach will come? So I said, no. He says the Dati world, the religious world, not the secular world. Why is that? Because, unfortunately, if you don't have Torah, you don't really understand that life has value in terms of your tafkid. You have a purpose to bring more light to the world. He says the religious world, they're going to be upset because once Mashiach will come, he said, there's no more chesed, there's no more kindness, there's no more tzedakah, there's no more doing acts of kindness because everyone's going to know the right thing to do. And the religious world, he said, are going to say, why wasn't I inviting more people to my house for Shabbat? Why wasn't I giving more charity? Why wasn't I learning more Torah? And then it's going to be over. So everything that we do, as please God, Mashiach is coming, everything that we do is so precious. After it comes, that's it, is to have clarity that everything that we do, every good thing that we do, okay, is monitored. And then closing up here, again, we discussed this many times, the Hebrew language, Lashon HaKodesh, the word to give in Hebrew is notain, nun, tough, nun, tough, nun. It's spelled the same way, backwards and forwards, which teaches us, okay? It teaches us that when we give, don't think you're giving this other person. You are receiving. Notain, when you're giving, you're receiving. Every act of chesed, every act of kindness, everything that we do is going to come back. And not be now, not be in 3 years, come back to you, your children, your antecedents. I'm sorry, your posterity. Okay? So again, what do we learn? That we learn that we're now in the 9 days, this awful, awful period. Okay, 2,000 years of hell on earth. Hopefully, please God, it's culminated this disaster in our neighborhood, is that we have to end this galud, end the sinas chinam in our own ways, small ways, saying hello, helping another Jew, smiling to another Jew, giving people the benefit of the doubt. If nothing to say about someone else, don't say it. But all this stuff, this is all the sinas chinam, we haven't fixed the problem. So please God, I think Mashiach can't come on Shabbos, so he'll come on Sunday, but hopefully we won't have Tisha B'Av, but we have to end it in this neighborhood, and hopefully everyone that's listening and watching. And if we do have Tisha B'Av, we have an amazing program we put together at the Young Israel in Bal Harbor. We have a whole day of classes. We have journalism list and the Chofetz Chaim Foundation. Following Tisha B'Av, we have a dinner, which is not age specific, at the Young Israel again. Shabbos Nachlo, Friday night dinner with Karbach. I just felt the community needed a lift. It's open in the 20s and 30s and 40s. It's open to every Jew. What else? We just planned today a class for what young Jewish professionals health program, class on taking care of yourself, better eating, nutrition, etc., etc. We have 2 top doctors who graciously agreed to speak for us. Why that topic? Because, I think one of the things we learned from COVID that people who are in good shape medically had a much better shot at survival. Right, 83% of people who didn't survive COVID were physically compromised. So I want everyone to eat well, sleep better. So that's going to be in a few weeks. Shabbos Nachmu, Tisha B'Av. And if anyone would like to sponsor any programs, we're really beginning to crank things out. Please let me know. In memory of someone, in honor of someone. And again, I'm Steve Eisenberg, and our programs are co-sponsored by JIC, Rage, Corona Cuties. The Young Israel is now our partner. And good night, Mom. Good night, Cousin Leslie. And thank you very much for this opportunity, and see you in Yerushalayim.
Yeah.